Hey everybody, welcome to the Growing with Fishes podcast. We have a pretty awesome special episode today. We're here with Scotty Reel and Grow Guru from Dude Grows.
Yo.
To join us.
Yeah, man. That's Aquaponics Steve over there, bro. That's how I got you in my phone, brother. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for being on the show.
Right on.
And we've been trying to get Scotty and the guys from Dude Grows on the show for quite a long time, but we were finally able to pull it off after many attempts.
That's right.
And
worlds have
pretty happy.
collide, man. When the phone rings, if I'm in the studio, that's how we can make it happen, bro.
Yeah, I felt bad earlier. I was like, I ended up interrupting one of the things you were doing, just trying to find out about today. So
you actually didn't, man. Badass. You Zen master. You did not, man. You're perfect, man. Dude, you got that's a nice scene.
A nice greenery behind you.
Oh. Yeah. Hey, Jose, your mic's open, man.
How's it going?
Sorry about that. Can you mute your mic, everybody?
Yeah, hold on.
All right. What's up, man? That's Jose?
What's going on, Jose?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
So he's the gentleman with the longest running that I'm aware of aquaponic cannabis YouTube channel. He goes by Silverarm32. He's a real known in the aquaponic cannabis scene. So we're lucky enough to have him on the show today as well.
Heck yeah, man. Respect, man. Scotty, what's up? I got Grow Guru out of camera range too, man. So
I'm here.
Hell yeah, man. Dude, what's up with the greenery behind you, man? That's beautiful. Steve?
So yeah, this is a bunch of aquaponic cannabis that's drying back here in the background. We're down here at 151 Farms in San Diego, and I'm helping them get their production up and stuff, and showing them some tricks of the trade and everything. So
Tilapia?
Yeah, they have tilapia and koi here. So.
Cool.
All right, can I ask one question, man? I know it ain't my show, but I don't know much about aquaponics, man. You mind if I ask one simple question?
Yeah, go for it.
Is all aquaponics dual root zone? Is that what it means to do aquaponics?
No. Well, so most dual root zone is the best method and the easiest method to get really good production. Some people do try to do it with DWC or with just straight media bed, but I've never once seen anyone that managed to get equal yields to soil or hydro that way. Many people have tried. Many people have documented YouTube grows out there and all kinds of other stuff. Friendly Aquaponics did a bunch of grows like that and was not able to achieve proper yields. So pretty much everything that I've seen that's been successful and commercially successful now, the last year and a half, 2 years now, there's more and more companies coming online, like Green Relief Incorporated up in Canada, the Golden Green Herbs down in Jamaica, which is the company I'm doing work for down there, and and everybody else. And these guys here, everyone's doing dual root zone, as well as there's one company up in Washington now that's doing it as well. And all of them are doing a method of dual root zone or some.
Okay, and Jose, are you a dual root zone guy too? Is that your style? We got him?
You can unmute your mic, bud. It was just in the beginning there, you were kind of a little loud. We'll get his mic working. I know, Scotty, you and Grogu are on a bit of a timeline, so we'll let you guys talk first, and then we'll transition to the other guest. Hey there, Marty. Marty's our other normal co-host. So.
All right, what's up, man?
What's up, man?
Hey, how's it going?
Scotty and Grogu out of camera, man. Nice.
So why don't you tell us about? So I wanted to bring Scotty on here to. He's a real good. I've been a chance to meet with them a bunch of times, and over at the Dude Grows show, and big longtime fan of Recharge, and was dying to get them on the show. They're actually kind of the inspiration for this whole podcast that we do here. They have their own grow podcast, and they talk about how to grow cannabis. And we thought, hey, what's the best way to disseminate aquaponic cannabis growing? So what better than a podcast? So it was really nice to have them and everybody else on to help disseminate that. So I really appreciate you for inspiring us to do this. So why don't you guys talk about a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, man. I mean, we just started. It was me and my buddy, the dude who is a guy we both had grows. I won't say I've been growing with them. I won't incriminate myself, man, but we have both had grows. And Yeah, just for years.
Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly. And we were just always bullshitting, man. And we seen what was going on in the community around. We live in Fort Collins, Colorado. I'm like, this is blowing up. And just to be a fly on the wall in the conversation sometimes seemed kind of interesting. And that's where it came from. So that's kind of cool, man. I was inspired by guys like Joe Rogan. Honestly, Howard Stern inspired me. It's cool, man. Hey, I inspired somebody, Guru.
That's awesome.
Take my picture, man. Put it in my diary, man. That's really cool, though, man. Thank you for saying that. You know what is super cool, man, that I'm psyched about, man? You know what? My product's Recharge. A bad segue. I apologize. But, man, as an aquaponics guy, Recharge is a biological. I got into these beneficial bacteria, beneficial fungi, but I'm really into the bacteria. I think there's a lot of genius in a good bacterial formulation. And I was kind of psyched when I was kind of nervous, I'll say, when I first gave you my Recharge, because there ain't no bullshit with an aquaponics guy, man. Fuck up, his fish die, and he's pissed at you, man.
Yeah.
So I was really psyched when it was well received by the aquaponics community, man. You were a little bit of a guinea pig litmus test going on there, brother. So what's up with that, man? I mean, I don't want to just make it about Recharge or nothing, man. So, dude, just talk a little biologicals, a little bacteria, man. I know you guys all rely on them to make it all work, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
What's up with that, man? So what do you guys know
So
about?
why don't you talk about like, so what is some stuff that you've learned having worked with, you know, the different biologicals and the different blends and things, you know, over time with your Recharge? I know you've changed the formulas around a little bit over the years. Do you want to talk about a little bit about that and you know, I guess how you come about that and you know what your I don't know, just experiences are or knowledge you've received from that?
Sure, man. You know, yeah, I just hooked up with an amazing formulator, and I had tried earthworm castings before. As far as I'm a salt grower, so I, you know, 2-part, 3-part shit. I've even done deep water culture. Of course, I know better than Mother Nature, you know. But when I came to Colorado, I tried to, you know, I actually had some really high tests. I'll call it high tests because it was kind of all show no go weed. Bright green, big fat buds, but didn't really have I call it the ass, man, but it didn't have that buzz to it, you know, the je ne sais quoi, if I want to be all classy and shit, man. Yeah, man, she was missing something, all right? I don't know, she had that look. But I came over to talk to actually the guy that owns Way to Grow. He was, you know, that time it was like, you know, a long time ago. He's sitting behind the counter. It's a big grow store here. And he's like, dude, you got to go to Coco Core and Smart Pots, and you got to start using castings, man. He goes, whatever salt-based nutrient, you got to start using castings. And he introduced me to mycorrhizae shortly after. And then from there, I just started seeing, you know, what other tricks are up the sleeve. You know, I kind of wanted to know what made them castings work. You guys use castings ever? Earthworm castings, what I'm talking about?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you know what
I
I
have
mean?
a worm bin that I basically just compost all of my waste in. And I use red worms as opposed to earthworms. And we use them a lot in aquaponics because they can survive without soil, which we don't use a lot in aquaponics other than in the, you know, like in the dual root zone layer. But most of the time they exist in like the media layer because as long as the water is oxygenated, they can survive and they don't need soil the same way that earthworms do. So I have them both in my beds and in a separate worm bin that I can use to add other stuff to, or usually just like fruit scraps and different stuff like that. And then I use I capture the water that runs through that bin and then feed it back to the aquaponics system.
Man, how often do you do that? Is that like once a week thing or?
About twice a week usually.
Yeah, respect, man. That's what I'm saying. So I sometimes will get in arguments with people where they go, "Oh, beneficials don't work with salt nutrients or whatever," and I'm like, "Well, you ever have castings save your ass when you burnt your plants? Because I have, you know, something's working there." That ain't NPK.
For sure. And that's really all I give my last indoor run. That's basically the only nutrients that I give it in terms of that. So like I will add stuff to my worm bin, like kelp or different raw nutrients similar that you would add to like a probiotic no-till kind of soil grow,
right?
And different stuff like that. I've used other stuff like mammoth pea and
but all my
EM1 bokashi. I have a bokashi bucket in my kitchen so that I start breaking all that stuff down. So we definitely try to use like a variety of microbes to help make, you know, whatever nutrients available that we can.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. So where do you guys get your macros from?
I get a lot of mine from myself personally from well water. My well water's actually got a lot of different nutrients in it to start with. But you know, we've seen people use everything from like azomite to if you have good quality castings, you actually can get a lot from those. And a lot of different, I guess, various raw nutrients, or not raw nutrients, but raw elements that you can feed to your microbial life that will then become available to your plants. And so it's a I guess it's a balancing act for the most part in terms of for what I do, because you know, Steve adds a lot of nutrients and measures out a lot of stuff and does a lot of testing, as opposed to me. I do a lot of just sort of reactionary. So if I see a deficiency in a plant, then I'll dose it with something. And so that, I guess that's kind of the difference between what we do. So Steve might have some other ideas on what you could dose for macros in terms of if you're starting with RO water or something like that. You're not lucky enough to have access to well water that has a lot of that stuff on it.
That's interesting, though, that just a tiny bit of well water, you know, that 150 ppm or something like that is enough to give you everything you need. That's interesting.
As long as it's low magnesium. It's
Huh.
usually pretty
Well, it just
It really
depends on your
water that you start with. I mean, it's terrible for my house, right? Like my pipes and everything. Like I get calcium buildup, and like I clean my shower head like every 2 months because my fridge, the filter in it for the, you know, little water in the door wears out like, you know, 6 times faster than anything else. So for the most part, it's a downside, but for aquaponics and for growing, it's definitely an upside. So take advantage of it.
Man, I was walking this morning. I woke up really early and I live by this reservoir. It's kind of up near like a mountain reservoir, and it gets higher and lower. So now it's the time of the year where it's, you know, in the summer, it's pretty low. And I was walking and you can kind of see where it steps down, you know, where they drained, you know, 1 million gallons this time and 1 million gallons that time. And I seen just the most beautiful green little seedling popping out of there this morning. I actually took a picture of it. I was like, dude, this thing is completely like has all the nitrogen it needs. It has everything it needs, and the only place it could be getting it from is the water. And I looked, you know, what the water left, and then I go and I look a couple feet later. This is fresh water too, and there was like a 1-armed crab dead there, and I was like, there's a little nutrition going on there, you know. It's just interesting.
A little crab meal.
Yeah, and then you start thinking of like bird crab, you know, a sea bird crab. It's really hot, you know what I mean? It's got a lot of nutrition. Well, it's because it's concentrated. It's because it's not supposed to layer the earth with it, you know, a little bit here, a little bit there. It's just so fucking interesting, you know?
Cool stuff.
Yeah, it is good stuff, man. It happens when you wake up early and you wake and bake, man. You start thinking.
The other thing too is we do a lot of nutrient supplementation when we adjust the pH. So for example, when I adjust the pH, if my pH is low, I'm going to use dolomite, which is calcium magnesium carbonates, which is basically my way of dosing CalMag rather than using calcium nitrate and, you know, magnesium sulfate. Magnesium sulfate is perfectly usable in aquaponics as well, but it's basically using more natural mineral salts or natural occurring minerals or that kind of thing. Using those instead of, you know, using synthetic or petroleum based. And, you know, there's a wide range of different nutrient supplements that you can use. It's just a matter of avoiding high nitrogen, avoiding high zinc, avoiding certain like things like saponins that you'd find in yucca extract, for example. Yucca extract will kill fish real quick. Pyrethrum, you know, certain pesticides. So just making sure that you're you know, always using your pH up or pH down to add or supplement. You're using phosphoric acid for pH down, so you can supplement your phosphorus at the same time. Just things like that that you can use to incorporate, you know, your normal adjustments, but at the same time using supplementation. You know, you can really help maintain your macros that way.
You ever seen that nutrient chart that shows like the different nutrients, how they're different pHs, you know, they're absorbed, you know, and you want to fluctuate. So is that the same with the fish absorb nutrients at different pHs too?
Yeah, so the highest you ever really want to run any of those is 6.8, and after 6.8, that's when you get kind of a hard cutoff on some of nutrients. But anywhere between 5 or 5.6 and 6.8 is kind of okay. Ideally, I like to run aquaponics in a 6.6 to 6.8 because I can hold it there all day.
Yeah, it's very similar to growing plants, right?
Yep.
Is that just Goldilocks life zone right there for pH? Not too acidic.
Well, it has to do with that, and not only that, but going back to what you were talking earlier, that's the pH that those microbes like to breed at the best and make use of the water at the optimal thing. That again, rainwater, you have natural occurring mineralization is 7 pH. So that's really what all your natural life. 7 pH is the average for most rivers and streams and everything else. If you averaged them all out, it's around 6.8 to 7. So that's what plants are going to want because that's what occurs naturally and the most in nature unless it's been mineralized.
So which is a little different than you'll see in like hydro, stuff where they're usually wanting you to pH it down to like 5.6 or 5.8, and really that's to sort of discourage the microbial life that we're trying to encourage in an aquaponics system. So we don't like to go as low as hydro guys, but we don't want to go above the ceiling of the cutoff, or else your plant's going to lock out and turn yellow and start dropping leaves and all that. But definitely don't want to go down to like what you would do in a hydro mix, just because it would kill off a lot of the microbial life that you're trying to maintain and use to, feed your plants.
And think of it this way. Like you have the chef and the restaurant, which is like your nutrients. Then you have the waiter and the waitress and the serving staff. They're kind of like the microbes. And then you have the customers in a restaurant that are like your plants. And without the waiters and the waitresses, they can't get the food. It's a really simple allegory, but if you're going to get maximum production on a plant, this is how we do it in aquaponics. We run way lower nutrient levels, ppm-wise, but we have much higher microbial levels, and it's able to inject the nutrients into the plant on the same kind of level that you would if you just rammed high nutrient levels into them. The plant can only uptake so much per day anyway. I can do that one of two ways. I can either slam the newts, or I can slam it with microbes that are going to help that plant be healthier and have a better immune system and a stronger ability to fend off other things. Like with a dual root zone example, against a hydro or a soil, it has more of a powdery mildew resistance because it has twice the microbes it's exposed to in the root zone. So the immune system becomes stronger. So same thing with your hempy buckets, actually. Your hempy buckets are very similar in mechanical and microbially to a dual root zone. You know what I mean? So
agreed. That's what I'm asking. Very cool, man. Very cool. Well, I don't know. I'm out of material, man. Hook a brother up, man. What do you got?
I was just going to say, Grow Guru, do you want to tell us a little bit about what your background is and a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, man.
He showed up on my doorstep 3 months ago, and I said, "You're hired." Actually, 2 years ago, your ass told me. When I
wait, on your doorstep?
Up in Fort Collins, he came over to a party we had, a little DGC event we had a couple years ago.
No, it was the actual cannabis.
It was actually the cup. Yeah, okay. And he said, "Man, I got 2 more years of college. I'm studying this, and I'm coming out, man." yeah, man. Respect, man.
And then I got out here, and I guess I've been out here about 3 or 4 months.
Sure.
But back home, I studied environmental horticulture with a focus on sustainable fruit and vegetable production.
Say it backwards now.
Minored in greenhouse management, and then took a fair bit of entomology stuff.
So I asked him the facts,
major land grant university on the East Coast. I'm gonna keep it quiet on which one that was actually at. So.
Yeah, man. But anyway, he drops a little science every now and again. We want to know why.
I sprinkle it
in. Absolutely, man. It's good to have you, brother.
So with that in mind, since I guess you help out with some of the DGC questions and stuff, what's the craziest questions, like top 1 or 2 or 3 questions you guys have been asked over there at DGC? Because I know I've gotten a couple really loopy ones that I just had to reply privately in email to. Do you guys have any good ones?
How many teaspoons are in 8 ounces?
Yeah, that was a good one. That was decent.
I don't know. Sometimes just people sending stuff in with 0 pictures and trying to explain with their words what they're dealing with.
I'll hook you up right now.
When it could be any type of 2,000 different types of insects. They're like, yeah, it looks like It's little and black, and then they don't have anything else after that. You're like,
It crawls.
yeah, I need some pictures of that.
I love
to even or be there ideally.
Right. You know what's funny is I was there back in the day, though. I have a friend who's a world-class entomologist. My best friend took her to prom. So, you know, she'll accept my calls still. And she's big time. I used to call her up and be like, hey, I'm not going to give you too many details, but I've got these bugs, you know, and I don't know. They're little bugs. You know, they're fucking up my crop. And dude, she was like, I'm not even taking your calls anymore until you buy a jeweler's loop, okay? You have to invest the $6 on
Hey, we've
Amazon in a
upgraded. We got a
jeweler's loop.
microscope now, so
Yeah, but I mean, there is a certain amount of responsibility, personal responsibility on yourself. You know, we're growing medicine. At the end, I don't know about y'all, but I'm going to smoke it. You know what I'm saying? So there's a responsibility. If I'm handing that shit out to my friends, you know, or handing it out to somebody and calling it medicine, there's a responsibility to go clean, man.
big moral responsibility.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to get off my
I know
soapbox.
too. What was that? I'm sorry.
I just said I'm off my soapbox. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But I
So
had a person comment before, asked me if aquaponics buds taste like fish.
Yeah, same here, man. It tastes like fish poop.
You win, bro. Jose, you win,
Hey,
man.
it absorbs all the methylamine.
I was like,
of the
man,
plant.
are you guys for real? Like, are you for real that the bud is gonna taste just like fish? It's just kind of funny the way that people think about aquaponics.
All right,
So
but
the
now I
best-
will say that, but you know, fish does bring the dank. We say that on our show because there is a certain flavor. I'll go grab it, man. I use a Grow More fish fertilizer, and I try to even sneak it in during flowering because I find it gives a real nice earthy flavor, man. I like this kind of stuff, you know, fish
Brings the dank.
emulsions. What do you guys have? Any comments or anything? What do you know? Your flavors have got to be out of this world, man.
oh yeah, because we run nutrient levels, it's definitely much more flavorful for sure. I'll let them talk too, but I know it's 9-day difference.
Yeah,
Have you checked the bricks of the aquaponic plants?
yeah, that's interesting.
We have had some sent it out. We have had stuff sent out and tested, but I don't. All that stuff's at my place in Colorado, and I'm not there right now. But if you email me, I'm happy to like talk to you about that stuff in
Ooh,
private.
because
I
especially
prefer manual testing.
where you
Sure.
where you
Me
mentioned
too, brother.
where
Me
you
too.
mentioned
I'm about to.
the plant having like a higher immunity to powdery mildew and stuff. That's usually that's
Bricks.
brought on by
Yeah.
high bricks in the plant.
True.
And
The
high
other
bricks
thing,
brings
It would
the
have
dank.
to be high. I mean, it's the entire system is basically just a small ecosystem,
And it's
when
all about
done correctly. So it would have to test off the charts, you would think. I mean,
the other one,
The next time
The
you
other
guys down, let me know.
I'd like
I'll
to see
test it.
15 or higher would be awesome.
Yeah, this girl of mine, I'm gonna have it tested. I've been wondering the same thing about
You can pick up
where it falls in the testing.
a refractometer and one of the like garlic clove presses.
Right.
And you can get enough juice to do a hand bricks measurement. And refractometer is like $20.
All right, college boy, get on Amazon Prime, man. We're testing bricks by Sunday morning, man. That's it.
you mentioned it. Now somebody's going to ask you for the link and which one to buy and like everything, man.
we have to go on Amazon now.
It's coming in the
Post it.
comments. I'm telling you.
Sounds good, guys. I think they're going to kick us out of here. We're over at the studios. It's just about 5 o'clock, but I'm glad we did this, man. You got some talent lined up here, brother.
Thanks, bud. I'd love to get you and the dude on the show again sometime and have a longer sesh. That'd be great.
That sounds good, man.
Awesome, man.
Sounds good. All right, take it easy, all y'all.
Thanks again for joining us, brothers. If you guys want to find more, go to Dude Grows Show. And then if you're interested in the microbes, definitely go over to realgrowers.com. And then if Grow Guru's got anything else he wants to add.
I tell people, yell Dude Grows at your phone if you're bored, man. We'll talk to you. We'll talk to you about smoking weed, growing a little dank. Take it easy, guys.
We also host thanks. We also host all of our stuff over there at on Dude Grows / aquaponics
Absolutely. That's
or potent
power.
aquaponicpodcast.com takes you to the Dude Grows aquaponics section as well.
Be good, guys. Thank you.
See
Yes,
man.
Thanks, bud.
Have a good one.
Alrighty. Thanks for sorry about the early start there, guys. Thanks for joining in and letting them talk in the beginning. They had a bit of a timeline. We were trying to squeeze them in today. Silver Arm 32 is awesome enough to join us, as well as Marty was able to connect with us. You guys want to, Marty,
Thanks for the invite.
what you got going on, then we'll let Silver Arm take the floor.
What do I have going on? Let's see. Well, right now I'm smoking some sour strawberry, which is very tasty. And so I am making room to double the size of my indoor and hang up the big lights because it's starting to cool off, so I can hang up the big HPS lights, or sorry, the big HID lights, and because then I don't have to worry about them heating up the garage too much. So I'll have 2 of those to hook up, so I think I'll have a total of 16 plants in there, so getting everything shifted around. And then the outdoors probably got about a month left before it's going to come down. I still don't know what's happening with the county. It's kind of up in the air whether or not I'm going to get my permit. And the lawyer that I'm consulting with basically begged me to not put up any more YouTube videos of it, at least until we figure out what's going on with it. So so yeah, I posted a couple of pictures. That's about it. So you can check those out in the Aquaponic Facebook group if you want to see those. But yeah, other than that, it's going pretty well. Not too bad. Like I said, I think I talked about in our last show, we had a couple of pH lockout issue, which we're gotten over, and buds are forming nicely and everything now. And the outdoor looks great. Steve, I sent you some pictures of my soil grow, and it's looking really good. So I'm excited for that. Yeah, I guess that's about it for right now. Just sort of on cruise control. Yep. How about you, Jose? What's happening over there?
Oh, not much. Just growing here still. I'm like maybe a couple weeks for my outside growth to be done, and I'm pretty excited. It's looking pretty promising. I've been working with that strain, like I've seen the videos I've been posting. That strain I've been working. That I cross DJ Short's original blueberry with Pineapple Express from G13 Labs, and I crossed it 3 or 4 times already, and I've been liking how it's been looking and tasting. And I grew it outside this time just to see if it grows outside too as good as Aquaponic does, and it does pretty good outside too. And I'm pretty happy and just can't wait to taste it. And indoors, I got 4 plants indoors, just growing LED with aquaponics, and they're looking decent. I haven't had that many problems yet. In the beginning, I had a lot of problems just with my pH. Like when you were talking about the pH, the first 2 years I ran with my pH 7.6, and the plants did all right, but
probably until they got to a certain size, right?
Yeah, they got adapted to that pH. But now that I got my pH at 6.5, it's a different ballpark. I'm getting used to this now, but it's running all right now. I got it running good.
Good.
So for those of you who don't know, Jose has as far as I'm aware, someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I'm aware, the oldest aquaponic cannabis YouTube channel that exists on the internet, or any kind of video, regular video channel at all.
Video blog, yeah. It was the only one I could find when I started. He was the only one I knew about.
Yeah. So do you want to tell us how you got started and everything, and and how you decided to start doing that, and
Well, I like to smoke weed, and then
I'll be right back. When Michigan got legal for medical use, I applied to get a medical card because I got back problems, and all my friends grow hydroponic and dirt, and I went and researched because my wife is against medical marijuana or any type of drugs, but
Sigh.
I'm different. I said she has an aspect for people that smoke weed, that they're lazy and they don't work, and I show her show her that she's wrong. Because I work a lot. I love to work, and I ain't lazy at all. And I ain't dumb.
Well, it's not all of us. It's just Steve.
But anyways, I went and researched because I wanted to grow something that it wasn't going to cost me that much money. And I found one guy that he had an older video about aquaponics, but he talked about hydroponics and aquaponics and dirt. And that's what got me started, because he said it was pretty hard and it was organic. And I figured, well, what the hell? I said, I'll try something that's hard and it's organic and it's going to be cheap. So I already had fish, had a 15-gallon fish tank, and I utilized what I had, and that's how it got started. I learned from my mistakes. I still don't know everything, and I've been learning from every grow. But from all the comments from all my friends that I got like plenty of friends that grow hydroponic and in dirt, and every single person, they all said that my dope has the best taste in theirs, and they grow some bigger than mine, but
yeah, my friends say the same thing. You know, like it's just something about the taste and the flavor. Is that more pungent?
And one of my friends been growing for years, hydroponic. Finally, he's gonna this is his first year at growing aquaponics. He has nice shed, like two 1500 water high pressure sodium set up, just nice. I've been trying to convince him to do it because I wanted to see how aquaponics would do in a setup like that, and hopefully he does good this year. And I will see. Maybe I'll get some videos to show people that if you get a good setup, that he gets a good yield every year, and I just can't wait to see his yield this year.
Right. Yeah, because I mean that's one thing. Like pretty much all of mine, you know, and I think silver arms too, you know, are all, you know, relatively low wattage grows, and I think that's, you know, important to keep an eye on too. I would have to say that probably this last indoor run, where, you know, I grew the sour strawberry and the starfighter, and I just uploaded a sort of overall from start to finish video for that. If anybody wants to check that out, I just put it up on my channel earlier today. But in terms of like just straight low wattage weed, I guess. I mean, this is with less than 300 watts. So, you know, I feel like that's an important note too, is that, you know, you can use relatively low wattage lights and still be able to, you know, produce plenty of quality product for yourself at least. So what were those growing under, Steve?
These were under induction lighting. And these are super tricky. I was trying to see if you guys can see, and they're just super white.
Yes, it does. Looks pretty good.
Really white.
What strain is that?
This particular one is, I think this is the Harlequin Tsunami. Memory serves me right. I gotta double check. Let me see what this one is. Actually, here's some more. This is a different strain.
But I've been convincing, looks nice, convincing more people about aquaponics that it's healthier. And do you guys flush in your system? Because I do not flush at all, and I have more than one person asked me if I flush in aquaponics. I said I do not flush, and yeah.
The only thing that I stopped doing is like the last 2 weeks I don't feed any worm tea. But you can't really call that a flush. I mean, I still feed the fish the same amount. I don't really cut back on that or anything else. So, I mean, there's really just not much that you can flush out. You know, for the most part, you know, the system is consuming most of what it's creating. So as long as your nitrogen cycle is relatively on, you know, you're going to add some fish food and it's going to spike up and then consume it back down anyway. So it's not like you're in hydro, you're dumping in all kinds of nutrients all at once and forcing them through the plant every week or so. So I don't see it having the same kind of buildup. So I've never flushed anything, and it tastes amazing, and I have no complaints. So I don't personally. Steve, maybe you do, but I don't know.
Oh, I was just gonna say I don't flush per se, but what I do is I cut back and I only do potassium silicate and molasses the last 2 to 3 weeks. I do maybe like a half dose of some other stuff the 3 weeks out, but for top feeding, I pretty much cut back quite a bit and just pretty much just do the potassium silicate and molasses, which potassium silicate's a naturally occurring mineral in the ground anyway. It's not going to add any flavor. It helps act as a bud swell basically, along with the molasses. So, but that's all I do as far as a flush. And the molasses is just there to make your microbes kind of have an orgy and breed out of control, power through any nutrients that might be left in the soil to basically act as a flush, and make sure that there's no residuals that the plant's going to pull. What are some big things that you've learned as far as trial and error, things that you discovered that were particularly useful, or things that you discovered that were particularly bad, or bad advice you've seen, or anything as far as along your journey, since you have a little bit longer running channel than the rest of us?
Well, I tried feeding it constantly, having it flow. The table not full all the way, but it was just maybe like 2 inches filled up the table all the time. And I didn't do that good that time. I had boron deficiencies, and when I started flowering, it was acting like it was too much nitrogen in the water. And it never stopped feeding, and it got locked up. I got a little bit of yield, and then that time it was kind of dirty, the pot. Every time you smoked it, you could see in the ashes that it was black ashes. It was not white like usually is when it's clean. And I noticed that for me it didn't work that way. And I noticed for people that have problems with pH and using tap water or well water and their pH is high, and they want to battle it with driftwood or peat moss or all that stuff. I tried everything. If your water is hard, has it hardened, it's hardened, or whatever they call that, GH, KH or something.
High GH, yeah.
Yeah. You will fight it. You could put acid in anything. It would just make it worse. I noticed that the best thing is just get an RO system that I got it. That cleans your water, all your water's nice, and then I stopped having trouble with that. I said that solved my pH problem completely. I noticed it's a good advice for people that will have just adding stuff just to fight their pH, because it will just rebalance back, and it just adds more stress, and more stuff that you add to your table, it will stress your plants. I noticed that too. Most of the time I just step back, change the water, maybe 50% of the water, or maybe 3/4 of the water, and let it work itself. And I cut all the bad leaves and see the new growth, see what it's gonna do. I read the plants. That's because
Right.
The plant will tell you what. Hey, help me over here.
Right. And you gotta, that's great for like when you're just, in there on a daily basis and stuff like that. If you let pH get it too far along, like when I was gone was when I had my pH spike. I wasn't here. My neighbor was feeding my fish and filling up my tank with my high pH water because he thought it was a good idea. So he was topping it off every time he came over. And so after 5 days, once they're in lockout that hard, it takes them a lot longer to come back out of it. So
Yeah.
If you are going to read it that way and read it by your plants, just know that once you visibly see it on your plants, it's already time to do something about it. They're already starting to lock out once you can see it. And the longer they spend in lockout, the longer it's going to take for them to come back out. So definitely, I would say like that was one of the things that I learned early on that I had to do on a regular basis and figure out how to maintain was, you know, a proper pH level so that it wasn't constantly swinging a lot, or you know, what I could use. And so I've always used, settled on, not always used, but I settled on, after using a variety of different things, phosphoric acid. It's just, you know, for the most part, it's readily available. And I use it in small amounts. I add it a little bit at a time. So it might, like, let's say if I just filled up a tub of water right now, or a tank of water with my well water, it'd be like 8.5, 8.6, right? So it's going to take me probably, you know, if I have fish in there, then it's going to take a lot longer to bring that down. So anytime I start a new tank, I always fill it up, mix it up, pH it down before I put any fish in it, get everything settled and let it sit for a day and then test it. So then, as long as I stay up on it, as long as I only add a little bit of water, add a little bit of phosphoric acid, and I don't add a lot of well water at a time, I really don't have to change too much. If I add a little bit every day, I actually don't have to add phosphoric acid, but maybe like once a month. It's really not that often at all. If I do a water change, like I feel like I have an issue, or it's really hot outside, like we spent, again, like a solid 2 weeks at 102, 103 degrees outside. So for my outdoor tank, about every 3 days, I drain about half the water out of it and fill it up with cold well water. And then I have to readjust over the next day or so, adding a little bit of phosphoric acid at a time to bring it back down. So just those little, you know, making sure that it stays relatively stable, I find is definitely like probably the most important lesson I learned early on, because it's very easy to spot too. Like you're saying, once you see the yellow leaves, you know, and they start to drop off, and you're like, oh, what's going on? And then just like you were talking about, pay attention to the new growth. Once you get it stable and you can keep it stable for a few days, pay attention to the new growth, what's coming out of the, you know, if you're flowering, what's coming out of the buds, because that's where all your new growth is. You know, there's no more new branches or anything like that to look at. And if you're in veg, obviously the health of the new leaves that are coming out of the new tops and branches that are forming, you know, is what you need to pay attention to there. A lot of leaves, once they start turning yellow, are not going to turn back once they get to a certain point. You know, it's just going to keep turning yellow and drop off even if you fix your system. So don't feel like you're going to fix everything and then all the leaves are going to turn green and everything is going to be healthy again right away. You're outgrowing it. So that would be my pH spiel, I guess. Just if you're going to be reading your plants that way, then do that. But you know, I try to test mine about every 2 days, regardless of what I'm doing. It's just kind of a good thing to keep an eye on. And if you do lose some shade leaves, don't worry about it. You know, like correct the system and let the leaves drop off. It'll grow some more, even if you're in flower. You know, basically, as long as your new bud growth is looking good, then, you know, obviously it is what it is. You might have lost some veg time or a little bit of stacking or whatever else, but, you know, still just going to smoke it. Still going to taste good.
I agree.
It's definitely something that's important to check your pH, you know, like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and check your nitrogen like Monday, Thursday, or something like that. Make sure your nitrogen and your pH, or your nitrates and your pH, are generally where they should be. And once you get through the cycling phase, you know, you're generally good. But as far as having to check ammonia and nitrate, but monitoring your nitrate and your pH is just something that's so cheap and so easy to test for. You know, it really is, and how important they are to bud growth. Nitrogen in regards to bud development or lack thereof, and the pH in regards to all your nutrient availability. You know, you can get a test kit for $6.99 in any grocery store for pH in the aquarium animal section. So
yeah, pet store. Yeah.
Yep, I agree. I check my pH at least once a week. Sometimes I get lazy. It's every 2 weeks. If I go out of town, then I wait for my wife to do it. And it's when you expect somebody else to do it, that's when you have problems. And past 4 years, I've been working out of town and haven't expanded since I began. I'm still in the same room, and eventually, maybe next year, I'll be posting better videos. I will have a nice shed outside and more room.
It's funny because that's like the opposite of me. I don't think I've grown in the same setup twice since I've started. Grown it, and torn it down, and rebuilt it every time. Although this time, technically, I'm just tearing apart the room and making it twice as big. So I don't know if that counts or not. But anyway.
Yeah, I've been doing like the changes here and there, changing the tanks, the different tables. But I just want a deeper table. My tables are the 6-inch deep. And I got two of them. I got a 3x3 and a 4x4 because that's the biggest I could put inside, bring down in the basement. And I want it bigger, but I would have had to cut a hole or something.
Right.
But,
have you checked out the liner? Like I don't know if you've watched the videos, but some of the liners are cool because you could build deeper beds if you want to, sort of a little bit more custom size as opposed to just sticking with the straight, like 4x8 by 6 inches deep or whatever it is.
That's what I'm gonna do. I've been waiting because I've been trying to make a greenhouse outside, but an underground greenhouse. I'm gonna dig a nice hole, put a concrete slope walls, 2 walls. I'm gonna have to build of we'll have plastic or plexiglass, and here's the roof. It'll be 2 walls of dirt or concrete, and I'm gonna build nice little with liners and a nice pond down there, so I could run it all winter long. But that's been my hold up, and that's my idea. With the liner, that's the way to go because you could customize however you want your tank or your whatever.
Yeah, I've had the half barrels, which I like because they're super easy and cheap, right? I mean, you can buy a barrel for, like $20, $25 around here. I think I got mine for $20 a piece, and they were all, I think they had corn alcohol in them was what they were shipped in, and they were all, so I, cleaned them all out and stuff, cut them in half, pretty cheap for beds. And they work relatively well, but one of the things that you get with building a bed is like on my front porch system or the ones in there is I can get a lot more length out of a grow bed or really just build it to fit the size that I need it to be. So I definitely feel like you have a little bit more freedom if you're using the liner because you can just kind of build whatever size and if you want a fish tank, you can build a fish tank and line that. If you want a grow bed, then you can build a grow bed and line that. I even made a couple of worm bins with the liner, lined those. Stuff works pretty good. It's relatively expensive, but I feel like for the food grade flexible liner, it's definitely worth it.
And it's good. It's good. It's a good investment because aquaponics is not expensive. That's like hydroponics. You gotta buy all your stuff. And aquaponics, the only thing you gotta buy is initially if you start, it's your tanks or whatever liners or whatever you're gonna need, pumps and stuff. After you got everything set up, the only thing you're gonna need is just fish food. And every so often, if your fish die, if you have problems with your fish. In the beginning I did, now I don't. My fish are pretty healthy, and if you do it right, you won't have problem with your fish. And the only thing you will need is just fish food. I think aquaponics is the cheapest way to go. I noticed. I think. Yeah,
and I think that it's important to remember that for the most part, that's what we're concerned about when we're talking about nutrient levels or different stuff like that. It's the plants can withstand way more than what the fish can. So they're all most of the complications that come with doing aquaponics over doing hydro come from having the fish in the tank. I mean, those are basically the concerns that that I guess that pop up first. You're going to kill the fish before you're going to cause too much harm to the plant. And so, it's almost like a canary in a mine kind of situation where if you start killing off fish, you might start going, oh, hey, what the fuck is going on?
I killed some fish in the beginning. I'm not proud of it, but it happens. The learning experience.
Yeah, I've killed quite a few fish too, especially back in my old job when we were like testing different products to see if they were fish safe or not in the lab. Sometimes you put something in there, 5 minutes later, the whole tank's
Nope.
dead. It's like,
Oh no, not this.
I was like,
Yeah. Or I just buy feeder goldfish, you know, some of them start out, you know, fucked up or have a fucked up fin or swim half-assed or some shit, you know, like
That's
they
how I
cost,
started with feeder fish too.
it costs like 25 cents at the pet store, you know, like what's the big deal? You know, so I think some of the ones that, you know, I think out of the like 25, I think that I bought to start with, I think 4 of them died off relatively quickly, which I just think was from like, you know, temperature change or fluctuation or different stuff like that. But for the most part, the rest of them lived for at least a year, which I think is pretty good for feeder goldfish.
I still got a fish that I started with. They're at least 6 inches long, and they're feeder fish, but they're still alive. I'm surprised.
Yeah, I got probably a dozen or so left now, and that was 4 years ago. So that's pretty good, I think, and they're pretty good size. I would say like, you know, 6-7 inches.
Yeah,
probably.
and they're cheap, like as you said, at pet store 25 cents. That's how I started, and they're pretty dirty. Create a lot of ammonia. You know, it's good for when you start aquaponics. I thought it's easier fish to handle. They're tough, and they won't die as quick, I think.
Yeah, that's kind of what I gathered, was that they were tough and cheap. So if I killed them, I wasn't really going to worry too much about it because it only cost me $0.25. I could go buy some more. If for some reason I totally fucked up and they all died, I'd be out like $5. So it's not really that big of a deal. I can start again if I need to. I didn't want to buy a bunch of like trout or something like that, or catfish, or, you know, something that that I was going to try and raise for food, at least to start with.
The friend of mine that started aquaponics, he went and bought some bluegills and trout, and he's gonna buy a little bit more. And I told him it's good. That was a selling point that tell people in aquaponics, that do aquaponics, that you could kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You could have fish that you could eat and grow vegetables and grow cannabis. You know, actually kill 3 birds with 1 stone. Said feed your family with your fish and with your vegetables, and you could have cannabis for your medical use or recreational use.
I grow tons of food too.
Win-win situation.
Right in the same systems I grow other stuff in. Like, you know, I have probably right now I have, you know, a good amount of tomatoes, bell peppers. We had carrots, beets, green beans, tons of raspberries. Yeah. Oh, and so what happened? I forget. I don't think I told you guys about this. In the indoor grow, when I cut it down, I just left the dual root zone pot in there, which was just full of my castings anyway. And so I now have 2 bell peppers and a raspberry that sprouted from my compost that are now just dual root zone plants in my system. They just took over. So I'm just letting them go. I just said, fuck it. So now I have those growing in there too. I'm going to keep them in there. You'll see them pop up when I do my video of the next setup. But yeah, it had some volunteers. I couldn't kill them. I was like, all right, you guys can stay. The raspberry's already like this tall. It's got 3 shoots. So that was pretty awesome. And I don't know what the bell peppers are, if they're going to be purple or because I have purple bell peppers and green and red. So who knows what it's going to be. Plus, it might just be one we bought from the store. So it's kind of a mystery. Landrace bell peppers. There you go.
Going back to the what you guys were saying earlier, pretty much every commercial grow that I've been working on or working with has started off with koi or goldfish. They're hardier, a little bit hardier than tilapia. They're a little bit more tolerant. You can flip them for still a pretty good price. Honestly, pretty close to, if not better than, the price per pound you're going to get for tilapia by growing out koi, especially butterfly koi or some of the fancier ones. There's lots of different freshwater fish that are in high demand. Pacu, you can get a permit and do your paima. You can do a whole bunch of different ones that are like big food fish that are, you know, higher profit value. Just sticking to tilapia is one of the I guess biggest mistakes people do as far as trying to generate money from their fish portion. Because tilapia, the U.S. is flooded with cheap tilapia from China.
I was
low quality.
I
So
was
unless
shocked at how much people were like selling, like 12-inch koi for it locally. I had no idea that there was that kind of market for them. So I have I have two of them that are probably around 10 inches or so, and so around here locally those were going for like 40 to 50 bucks a piece. And I was like sort of taken back by that. I had no idea that in
I
ornamental
started
fish.
with 4 koi.
What's that?
So I started with 4 koi, but they committed suicide, and that's
They jump out?
good experience for other people that don't know, just want to start too. That if you have koi and you put them to a new tank, they have tendency jumping out of your tank because it's new environment for them. That's what I was told, and I researched. You want to put something over it, or you'll come back to your room with some dead fish in the floor.
Yeah, I definitely had a couple of them that have jumped out, just goldfish that I have no idea why or whatever. Like nothing really changed. Like water temperature was the same, feeding schedule was pretty much the same, and it was over like I don't know, maybe like 2 or 3 weeks. I had two of them jump out. I don't know what the deal was, but they just decided they were done.
It was time to go.
I took a picture of it, and I was like, when I found it, and I posted it and said, well, I guess this is why there's no live action Finding Nemo, because this is how it ends every time. I found him, he's dead.
On that note, the most expensive one like that, I had a $1,200 Japanese dragon moray eel, like a rare color type, not even the normal ones, and I saved up for like 3 months to buy this thing. Bought it and came home after like 3 weeks, and the thing was dead on my living room floor. And I was like, it's heartbreaking. It's the most I've ever spent on a fish, and the most heartbreaking I've ever.
Well, after that, I don't think I would spend. I think I'd buy nothing but goldfish if I spent.
I just tore down. Yeah, I was so pissed. I just tore down my predator tank. I was like, I'm done.
Guys, have you guys heard anybody that been doing aquaponics, or I don't know if it's possible to do aquaponics with salt water, like salt water?
Nori with fish and like a saltwater aquaculture system and doing like seaweeds, but the problem is that the seaweeds don't really filter water the same way that you can get with plant roots. And unless you're going to do so the other two ways, I guess, that I've seen like an aquaponic setup, I guess, in saltwater, if you want to call it that, is I've seen really big saltwater tanks that have like a tide pool. They call it a tide pool tank or a tidal tank next to it, or a grass bed tank. And basically it's like a bunch of seagrass in a system that filters through, or a bunch of mangroves. But the issue you have a lot with mangroves is mangroves have a lot of flatworms and stuff that they introduce, and that can be detrimental to your corals and fish. The more times with saltwater, it can get pretty crazily complicated because of parasites and stuff with certain plants. It gets infinitely more complicated quickly. I don't know, there's no high salt crops. I know that some potatoes have been done in salt water or brackish water. I think some onions have been done in brackish water. I know there's a handful of crops that can tolerate like.
I've been thinking
I
about
think there's some cabbages too.
Just to see what it would do. I'm one of those type of persons that I like to try stuff and just see what it happens. And I've been thinking about trying it.
I was always curious if you could like grow kelp, because if you could grow kelp that you could then grind up to feed to your freshwater system, because that's something that people feed a lot of times anyways. So it's almost the same. So but I've never really looked into it. I don't know if I know like Steve was saying, it doesn't really have roots or grow and filter out like the ammonia and stuff that you wanted to in the same way. So I'm not sure that it would be the same type of setup. It would be more like a saltwater tank that you added kelp to. Like I think you'd still have to probably maintain it in all the same way that you would normally maintain a saltwater tank.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you would gain an advantage of growing the kelp in it. Does that make sense?
The kelp would function as a nitrogen sponge the same way that plants would. you'd have to grow so much more that I'm not sure if your water volume to tank volume, or your water volume to like fish ratio would be kind of crazy in order to absorb enough for even like a small harvestable amount of fish consumption. Would be kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But you'd be best off trying to find some saltwater crops that'll produce, of which I can't think any of. I'm sure there is. I think there's some saltwater tolerant taro or something like that. I could be wrong on that. It's been a while since I've tried to work on anything like that. I haven't played with saltwater that much.
Me neither. That one day I was just sitting here smoking, and all of a sudden it just came to my head. I was like, you think it might doing salt water? It might work. You know, just came across my head. Nobody has asked me a question yet about it, but it thought.
The issue is sodium kills plants so quickly that actually there was a funny question somewhere I saw on the internet recently about this guy was like, is there a way to like have an aquaponics system with salt water and desalinate it when it goes to the plants and then resalinate it when it comes back? And it's like, if we had desalinization down that good, we wouldn't have a water shortage. You know,
Right.
It's like if you get to that point for aquaponic application, you let me know, because I'll find a better use for that. They're just kind of funny, you know. People get so pigeonholed trying to accomplish one little thing, and they don't realize that like it hasn't been accomplished even on like a grand scale. It's just funny sometimes, you know, with some of these newer, especially eco-friendly technologies, people get kind of these very interesting views on how they should work or how they do work. It's kind of fun.
Did you try running a pump with a small nuclear fission reactor?
Right?
No, I didn't.
There was that kid that built a nuclear reactor in his garage a couple of years ago.
Yeah, he was cool. He actually has he's working on one that they think they can run in space that runs on molten salt, which is really cool. You guys should check that out. But yeah, obviously, I think that you know, the desalination and resalination and all that stuff just sounds like you know, not only a pipe dream but like a pipe nightmare. Like, I don't even know why you would.
Yeah. We have problems just getting the water to come out of sprinkler heads, like outputs right now. Like, can you imagine trying to deal with the clogs on that system? Like, you know what I mean? Like, whatever that filter unit would guarantee to be clogged with that.
I think I saw that post. It was all because he wanted to raise salmon.
But you can do that with an aquaculture system and just do a water change. You know what I mean? Like, there's no reason. Same thing with like some of your shrimp species. You know, there are also ones up there that, you know, so a lot of your shrimp species need a brackish or salt water for a portion of their lifespan. One of the other things I forgot to mention, there was a question last week, and I wanted to bring it up real quick before I forget. We had a guy ask, he is colorblind, and he wanted to know what kind of options are out there if you can't do the normal titration tests for ammonia, nitrate, pH, and all that stuff. And there's actually a couple different companies. There's a company called Hanna that makes these cool little Hanna checkers, and they range anywhere from $14.99 to I think like $100 and everything in between. And all of those give a digital readout and are really good for that kind of stuff. And give you, you know, you can be completely colorblind and get a really good digital reading and digital output on it. You just have to make sure you're not using EDDHA iron. Which, like we were talking about earlier with the pH and the lockout, if you're different chelates, which are what help make the mineral available, for lack of a better description for what we're talking about, operate and break down at different levels in order for the plant to make them available. And if they break them down too much, then things don't become more. If the pH is too high, it locks them up and they can't come out. That's why, for instance, DTPHA works better than other type forms of iron. But going back to my original statement, EDDHA will affect those refractometer style testers. So if you are doing, you know, colorblind, don't use EDDHA iron. Make sure you're using DTPA. But you should be anyway. But just something else to touch on that can give false readings with those color chart and color meter style testers.
Yeah,
Have you,
readout is probably the only option. I can't think of anything else that would work that I've seen. It's pretty much either color based or digital readout. And so if you're going to go digital, make sure to get plenty of the calibration solution and calibrate it often so that you don't have poor testing and maybe take a baseline of your tap water so that you can also make sure that it's going to be about the same and use it to test and make sure that it's calibrated correctly. That's pretty much the only advice I have for digital meters is that you got to calibrate them or they will fuck up basically.
Yep, that's the biggest thing with pH meters. Make sure every 2 to 4 weeks, depending on your type of meter, you're recalibrating those probes. I had another question for you, Silver Arm. What's your favorite strain so far that you've found? You've been growing a little bit longer than us. Well, I don't know, but definitely publicly longer than us as far as AP style.
What do you mean, a stream?
Like what varieties of cannabis have you liked the best? What names of cannabis have worked the best for you as far as yield and the aquaponics?
I grew New York Diesel from from Soma Seeds, and that did pretty good in aquaponics. The one that didn't do good in aquaponics, I noticed it was Ultimate. That was the only one that did not like aquaponics. I've grown original blueberry, Pineapple Express. That's when I started crossing the Pineapple Express and the blueberry. And I've been growing Super Sour Silver. I crossed that one with OJ Ghost Strain. And that one, my first crossing came out excellent. You'll take a hit, and when it goes in, it'll be hashy. And as soon as you release, it gives you a little bit of the limey taste. It was pretty crazy. I had a lot of good reviews. Friends of mine that I gave, and they smoked with me, and they were all say the same thing. But I've been growing lots of strains, and the best that I liked, it was the Pineapple Express. That was my favorite. And one that I cross is Aurora with a White Rusky. That one was real hashy, and then that's what I got right here behind me. That's the Aurora, my cross, and I'm hoping it's the genotype that I tried a long time ago. It was just excellent. It was just hashy, real hashy. Just had it. If you smoked it, and people that smoked it before and smelled it, they will know exactly what you're smoking. You can't deny it. I had friends before that I was running low, and I didn't want to share my last joint, and they're like, "Man, are you smoking Aurora?" And they just works. Oh my God! Like, let me get it. Like, oh my God, no, I'm not smoking Aurora, man. But it was one of those strains that it had a unique smell that it was hard to hide. But I've been growing different strains, and almost every single one did pretty good and tasty.
Now, do you grow from seed each time, or do you have some others going that you clone from?
I start from seed because I got one room. Like I said, I've been in the basement, and my friend has a nice setup, and he's been bugging me that I need to get it different. I'll never have to start from the beginning, from scratch. But I just don't want to invest and put another room in the basement until I just want to get out of the basement. And when I have money, I don't have the time because I work out of state. And when I have time, I don't have the money. It's one of those deals every time. It's just, hopefully it plans out and I'll have a nice shed and a nice underground greenhouse next year. But you know how it goes. It's part of life.
Yeah. So what do you like to what do you use for supplements in your system?
In the beginning, I didn't use honestly nothing. It was I just checked for my pH, and I was fought my pH until I got the RO system, and after that, and didn't use anything. It was just maintain itself. Every time I had a problem, I just changed half the water with my RO water that's 0 parts per million. It was just clean, and it cleaned itself until I think I met you, and you gave me a chart, and that's when I started learning more about what can you use and stuff like that. You gave me a good chart. That's what keeps me looking for stuff, and I appreciate it. And ever since, that's when I started checking for stuff more often. But in the beginning, it was just I threw some fish and made it work. And like people that seen all my videos, you could see when I started, it was 2 glass fish tanks with a Tupperware, or it was simple design. It just ghetto, but I made it work. Small butts, but eventually it just grew into a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. But it's not there yet. But it grows. That's why I made the videos on YouTube, just to show people that you can grow good cannabis without adding all those chemicals and spending all that money and changing your water every week. Because I was gonna do hydroponic. All my friends kept going, "Oh, you gotta do hydroponic." Then I researched it, and I went and hang out with them, and I seen that they gotta change their water once a week or twice a week or whatever, and add more chemicals. And then I thought that wasn't for me. I said I just did it a cheap way, and I made it work, and posted videos just to show people that it could be done. And I was hoping somebody went beyond me, and you did. You showed that what you could use. You learn and study stuff, and that's what I wanted to happen when I started with my videos, honestly. And it worked, and I'm kind of happy. I said I made it work, and other people went over beyond me and made it better, and show people, spread the word. That's organic, sort of like hippie. We're not hippies, but we just want to make it organic. We want to know what it's in our cannabis and stuff that we smoke, and show people it's done correctly and cheaply.
And tastes better.
Yeah, and tastes better. And
Smells better.
I have friends of mine that said, "Oh, my butts are bigger." I say, "Yeah, I don't go for quality. I go for quantity." Or I go for quality. I don't go for quantity. I said, my stuff is smaller, but it has good quality and tastes awesome.
Yeah, you and Marty have definitely seen some stuff that I've shared with you guys that nobody else has gotten to see, and stuff like that, as far as referencing and stuff like that eventually will be out in public. But there's some formatting and some other things that have to happen before that work happens. But yeah, it's cool to hear that was able to help you out and get that going.
But I like yeah, go ahead.
I had a pretty interesting product that I found at the store this week. It's called Blue. I've never seen it before. The logo. It's backwards.
You know what that is?
065. And the interesting thing is it's made up of magnesium phosphate, phosphoric acid, potassium carbonate, potassium sulfate. So there's nothing in this that's not remotely non-fish safe. So it's one of the best blue products I've seen that's out there. So if you're looking for a halfway decent off-the-shelf, it's definitely one that I was going over. I needed a phosphorus booster, and I wasn't really minding if it had that. And they were out of rock phosphate, so I was like, I got to find something. So this is one of the better ones that I've seen, having looked at a lot of bottles on the shelf. It's definitely one of the better ones that I've seen in a while. I don't like using bloom boosters like that blindly. This particular bloom booster would be great for the first few weeks of flower, but you really just need potassium after that. You don't need the phosphorus hardly at all the last few weeks, because you've already put a bunch into the soil, into the soil layer, the system.
Unless you're seeing a deficiency of some kind, right? I mean,
Yeah, but generally the plant, after the last 3 weeks of flower, the plant doesn't need hardly any phosphorus, or the little it does is already available. You don't need to add any new stuff unless you're doing a hydro system. So
plus, by that time, there's not that much time that you have left to really make a ton of difference anyway.
And the reason why you would cut down on that phosphorus is because if you're looking for sales appeal, especially in the commercial environment, you really want to cut down on that phosphorus just right at the end, because that helps with purples and blues and that anthocyanins showing up in the plant later on.
We had a question in chat too. Any words of wisdom regarding whether or not to add composting worms to grow beds? So we talked about this a little bit earlier when the grow dudes were still on, and we've talked about it before. So composting worms is, I guess an interesting term. If you're talking about red wiggler worms, then absolutely. If you're talking about earthworms, then I would probably hesitate to put them into your grow bed, because they will probably just die eventually.
Oh.
It might last for a little while, but red wigglers are definitely the way to go, in my opinion. And Steve, you had a different type of worm that you talked about too. I forget what it's called now, but you talked about it a couple of weeks ago.
There's black worms. I really like black worms. And then there's crap. What is the other one? There's an in-between one called Gambia worms, or crap. Hold on. I'll think of it. It'll come to me. There's another worm that is in between, like a black worm and an earthworm. That's good too. You're not really gonna see it outside of a pet store, but black worms are great to introduce to your grow beds because they like to get it down into that anaerobic and sludgy zone. They're really, really tiny, and they like to break down that area that gets nasty and putrefied, and is that place for that nasty stuff to get started and get colonized in your grow beds. Those little black worms love to tunnel through that, seek out a lot of the junk that's in there as a food source. And doing so help provide new little tunnels for fresh water flow and help basically get rid of those anaerobic zones altogether, simply by how they work. So then you combine them with the red wigglers and you end up with a really good population of worms of all different sizes that are actively composting the various, everything from raw fish slime to everything between. There we go. There's one of the other growers here that's been helping us out. His microphone is muted at the moment, it looks like.
Yeah, but I agree too with worms. That's I tell people that's
sorry about that. A bit of an
best way to deal with worms, red wigglers.
We'll get the other grower on here in a second. I was trying to get him on earlier, and we were having some technical issues. So he was. His microphone's muted, so we'll have to unmute his microphone on his phone there. There you go.
Yeah. Sorry if I killed it with the feedback there.
No problem.
All right.
Grower at 151. I'll let him introduce himself and talk about a little bit about his experiences growing in aquaponics.
Oh, thank you. I'm here at 151. This is actually my first experience. He's sitting in front of some of the harvest examples. I'd never seen anything really like it, but I did notice a lot of things different, definitely than growing in soil. Primarily the amount of beneficial bacteria and the importance of individualized nutrient testing. Our nitrates were out of control. But basically everything on the farm that was on aquaponics was kind of nutrient locked. It was just, everything that I was growing in soil was flourishing, but the rest of the farm wasn't. And within just a couple of weeks of Steve being here, I learned more about aquaponics than I thought I even needed to learn to adequately grow on it. So even increase the potassium intake on my just put some potassium in the water for my soil gardens, and it's taken off as well. So if anything, I can at least attest to his expertise in the field, because I'm still learning by the day, primarily with Steve as the counsel. But results have been really, really good so far, and I think on the next go around we can definitely increase the productivity, the bud size, and just have everything really dialed in rather than having a large novice garden.
You can't really hold him that tight.
And that's pretty much been my experience.
Right on. Had you ever somebody else's grow, or how did you find out about it?
Can you move to a different spot real quick? You're getting a little bit of feedback there.
Yeah.
Yeah, why don't you tell them a little bit about your background and how you got employed here and all the different contests you've won and everything?
Well, primarily I was born and raised in Oklahoma, and as Okies we grow. So I was used to gardening for food, and I didn't really realize that people bought vegetables at a grocery store until how country it was where I grew up. I've done some interesting things, like milk-fed pumpkins to grow really large ones. But it kind of got away from me for a number of years. They teach you in life, you don't want to grow up and be some poor fucking farmer. So went to college and all that. I was an accountant for 10 years and just got tired of how the real world works, I guess. So I quit and went back to farming. Accidentally ended up in cannabis because my cousin was growing. So I learned a lot about hydroponics the first year with him. But then the last house that I lived in, I had a really nice front yard, big beautiful jacaranda tree, but just a boring lawn. And I tore it up one day and planted a vegetable garden, called the place Purple Tree Farms. It's just constantly just covered in purple petals from the jacaranda, and randomly ended up nominated for the county fair by, I guess, at least 5 of my neighbors. And as far as I know, I'm the first and only person to sweep the county fair in all 8 categories at for homegrown produce. And so I was the top 3 of everything, and all the other farmers were asking me how big my farm was, and I told them 200 square feet. They're kind of aghast, but I turned that into a consulting gig for urban farms, just encouraging everybody to tear up their front yard and plant vegetables. And ended up in a police raid. I wasn't even growing cannabis at the property. A year-long nightmare trial situation, and really the first gig I got offered as soon as a news article came out about my acquittal was here on this farm. Primarily, it's 151 Farms. We plant 1 pound of healing herbs for every 5 pounds of food for 1 world. Realistically, the ratio is more like 1 to 51, because I grow a lot more food than we do cannabis. But I really kind of believed in the movement when I heard about it. It's interesting to bring cannabis to the table along with food production, because ultimately, to me, it's just a plant, and it should be treated as such. But I got my vegetable garden up and running in the soil beds outside, and they're just, like I said, they were flourishing. And meanwhile, I'm barely keeping the plants alive, the cannabis plants, because of a number of different things that was just ignorant to with aquaponics, like top watering with nutrients. I'd keep my nutrients separate, and it'd be at a pH of 5.5 because that's what the plants like. But meanwhile, they're getting bottom watered with the ebb and flow system, and a wicking. We should have done a dual root zone, but didn't learn about those again until I met Steve. But basically putting the plants into shock every day by receiving their nutrients in a much lower pH water than what we keep for happy fish. And so by balancing that out, immediately produce better results. Getting a full water test done on all minerals instead of total parts per million. The individualized parts per million test is a host of knowledge in itself. It's different than what you would do for a sterile system like hydroponics, or what you would do for soil. So it's like I said, it's been seems like 2 weeks have blown by, but at the same time, I don't think I've ever learned so much in 2 weeks. The plants speak for themselves, and that's how I've always done my gardening. Is I don't want to have to talk about any of my product too much. It's should speak for itself, and everything is speaking for itself now instead of a sales pitch. So hopefully it'll get much easier for the sales guy here at the farm too.
Right on. That sounds good. Sounds like some good progress.
Yeah, lots and lots of progress.
Yeah, but he's got a killer soil garden here. It's got a ton of vegetables going on it. That fortunately the internet distance will not allow him to go film it. But I'll make sure I get a video of it up on the channel here before too long. You might be able to get the IBCs, but I don't know if you can make it to the veggie, the tomatoes.
I'm gonna try. If you lose me, it's because of the distance. So.
Okay, he's gonna see if we can show it off.
I just canned my first batch of, well, I didn't. I should say my wife just canned her first batch of tomatoes, so it's always nice. Looking good. You guys get a lot of algae growth in those white or clear containers?
Yeah, there's a little bit of algae at the top.
There's the tomatoes.
Right on. Looking good.
He's got a little aquaponic garden over there too. Although I think we're gonna lose him when he goes around the corner.
For the kids.
There's a lot of metal between. Yeah, that's just a little bit of the outdoor stuff. There's a ton of indoor grows here and different shipping containers and various things here. Yeah, it was cool that you could show us that off and everything.
Yeah.
But did you have anything else? Is there anything else you wanted to say, I guess, as far as being a newer person and coming into aquaponics? As far as, I don't know, advice or people transitioning from over? Oh, maybe he's having audio issues. Might be having audio issues. His mic is muted.
I was just trying to turn it down because there was some loud trucks driving by, so I could hear better.
Is there anything else that you would recommend to newcomers coming into aquaponics might help them make their lives easier, or things you've learned or experienced as someone more recently transitioning than the rest of us?
Get the advice of an expert, like Steve, or the biggest thing to me was individualized water tests with individualized parts per million, as opposed to just basing the health of the whole ecosystem off of a general total ppm count.
Cool.
Good advice.
That's good advice, because that's just learning about that has helped visually in the results, and again the plants, they should speak for themselves anyway, whether you're growing cannabis or vegetables or anything.
Awesome. So I got some videos that I posted up. If anyone's interested, I got a bee video, a couple of veg videos, and a flowering room video. I guess that's just what I've been up to. I forgot to mention that at the beginning of the episode because we were in such a hurry. But yeah. What other topics do you have? I know I wanted to talk a little bit about Amendment 64 if we have a little bit of time still today. I don't know about you, Marty, or Jose, what your timelines are.
Oh yeah, I gotta go water and stuff before dark, so I probably need to bounce pretty soon.
All right. What we'll do is
yeah, me too.
no problem. What we'll do is we'll save it up, and we'll try to do 2 or 3 states every episode between now and the election. Is kind of what my general game plan is, and cover, hey, like this bill is worth voting for, or this bill is not worth voting for, and like here's the top 5 to 7 reasons why it's shit or why it's good or whatever. Because there's so much ballot initiatives and so much confusion and so much crap that's out there right now, and there's like a dozen states that have a medical or a rec vote up right now, that it's just really confusing. So it'd be nice to, I'm going to spend some time doing a little write-ups about each one, and then, I really want to spend some time dedicating to it, because that's going to affect all of us aquaponic cannabis growers more than anything else in the next month and a half. So I really want to take quite multiple episodes and try and hit, either half of them in one or a third of the initiatives in one, and try to cover them between now and the election.
Yeah, if you need help on Oregon.
Yeah, dude, if you want to put together something on Oregon and any other states that you're working on, that would be great.
Cool. Sounds good.
Alrighty, so if anyone's interested, we'll wrap the show up. You guys, I want to thank again Scotty Reel and Grow Guru for stopping by. We'll get them back on the show again. But it was great to finally get him on. We've been playing, we've been trying to get him on about 5 different episodes, and at least 2 or 3 of them. In fact, there was like an episode or 2 ago where like we just could not get the audio straightened out, so we ended up having to just push it off. So once in a blue moon, we've been trying to get him on. So it was really great to have him on. Again, go see them at dudegrows.com and realgrowers.com, and then you can find. You can find us at ponics.com or at Aquaponic Cannabis Growers on Facebook. Marty, do you want to?
You can look me up on my channel, which is AP Meds. You can see in the chat over here, talking to people over there. But AP Meds, you can look that up. I have a couple of grows that are going, and I just uploaded the video, kind of an overview of my last one. If you kind of just want to see a start to finish slideshow, you can check that out. Yeah, I think that's about it. Oh, I guess the Aquaponic Cannabis Growers Group, you can look us up. It's Steve and I, and Jose is in there too, I think, right? So definitely look us up on there. And yeah, that's about it.
Jose, do you want to plug your channel and whatever else you got, company-wise, or plug whatever you got?
Yeah, go just check my videos. Silverom 32. I got an outside grow going on right now. Should be pretty close to getting done, and my indoors that right behind me is just got 4 more weeks. But hopefully, I'll be posting a couple more updates, and just watch the videos and comment and like and subscribe. And thanks for having me here, and nice meeting you guys.
Yeah, it's nice to get out.
You're welcome on the show anytime there, Silver. So like we're trying to transition the show over to having more than just me and Marty, having some other guests on. Occasionally Marty and I won't be able to make it on the show, so it'd be nice if we had, if Marty or I can kind of pick up the show and have some other hosts on the show on a regular basis. So definitely don't be a stranger, and if you've been on the show before, or if you'd like to be on the show, definitely reach out to us and talk to you for a couple minutes. And
yeah, I like what we stand for. It just I like what we're doing, showing people that you can grow organic.
And then Micah, did you have anything else you wanted to plug?
I think I plugged you enough, didn't I? I'm gonna plug Steve again. I gotta give him a lot of fucking credit for positive growth here on our property, which was entirely done.
Thanks. Once again, thanks again to 151 Farmers for hosting us here. They were kind enough to let me. I was hanging out here doing some work and realized that I was running late, so I just did the podcast from here instead of back where I'm staying. So I thought it'd be really cool to bring that up, and thanks again for letting us host here, and showing off their drying room and everything. It's kind of neat to host here. So. Thanks again, and thanks everyone.
Put me on the spot. Thank you.
All right. Cheers, everybody. Take care. Thanks for watching.
See ya.
See ya.